Hello, I'm Jacinta. Welcome back to my channel, Past That Plant. Over the past few months I chopped, propped, rooted and now have potted up my glorious Philodendron Pink Princess cuttings. I took 4 cuttings of this plant back in March, which is autumn in Australia, and I potted up the cuttings in June, which is winter. 2 of the cuttings I potted up back with my mother plant, and the other 2 I potted up together to make a new tiny planter. Look at the glorious pink. I did document and share the journey along the way, which you can already find on my channel, but this video is the entire process in one. You can see exactly how I propagated my Philodendron Pink Princess, the rooting hormone I used, the 1-month update, and then the final repot. My gorgeous Philodendron Pink Princess is so lovely and full now, and I think it has a good mix of very vibrant pink and some dark green still. Some people claim that they are ugly and leggy. I don't think this is the case. You can see that mine has filled out beautifully since I've been propagating it. Each spot I took a cutting from has branched out, so instead of single leader stems, which is just one stem where foliage is coming off, I now have beautiful branches, so multiple stems with even more foliage. I have about 7 different growth points now, more if you include the 2 cuttings I just planted at the base. So if your Philodendron Pink Princess is looking a little bit leggy, or you've lost the beautiful vibrant pink variegation, this is your sign to chop it back. But for now, enjoy the tutorial. I think it's quite thorough. It should teach you how to chop, prop and care for your Pink Princess Philodendron as well. Today we are going to chop and prop my Philodendron Pink Princess. This isn't the first time I have cut up my Pink Princess. I did it exactly a year ago. I'm going to chop her for a few reasons. Firstly, it is March, so it is now autumn in Australia, which means I need to do all my repotting, replanting, chop and propping in this season before winter. I also added this branch stake in December and she has already outgrown it. Instead of trying to find a bigger branch, I'm just going to chop her. The plant is getting quite top heavy now, and I prefer a more bushy plant. Last time I took cuttings, she pushed out a lot of new growth points. So instead of but one long stem, I have lots of new sections where foliage is now shooting from. So cutting this long branch should have the same effect, and by doing so I should have a lot of new growth down the bottom. Don't worry though, I'm not going to throw this bit out. We are going to propagate it. As well as taking cuttings from the top of the plant, I am going to prune off some of the lower foliage. There is a lot. Some of the leaves I am going to cut off because they are starting to go yellow, like this one here, which is ugly. You could leave it on, of course, but I like to prune them off as soon as they start to turn. There is some damage to the lower leaves because I have an electric standing desk and she got in a bit of an entanglement with the desk and the hooks. It was a whole thing. Anyway, that is why there is some tears in the foliage. That's where a hook went through. But I digress. Let's get to the chop and prop. This plant is super easy to propagate. You just need some sharp shears. I use these Japanese ones. They're very, very sharp. You just need to take cuttings anywhere where you've got these little nodes. These will turn into roots when you pop them in water, or you can also propagate straight into a potting mix, but I love water propagation because you can watch the roots grow. I'm going to start by just chopping this whole branch off, and then I will cut it into smaller sections. So let's do it. So here is my section now that we will propagate. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 full leaves and then one which is just unfurling. And the sap should be very pink as well. Now let's cut it into smaller sections. I just have some loo roll because she's bleeding everywhere, but I won't do a proper clean up until I've finished taking all the cuttings. It is a fantastic pink purple though, which is the sap of course. I'm now going to cut this cutting into smaller cuttings of about 2 leaves, except for this top one, which I may leave as a 3. And the reason why you don't want to try and propagate this whole section at once is because there is so much foliage and the plant's energy is going to go towards keeping the leaves alive and not growing new roots, which will end poorly and you'll end up with a dead cutting. Whenever you take cuttings of a plant, 2 or 3 leaves is best. Now let's chop her a little smaller. Okay, so I'm going to take my first smaller cutting and I'm just going to cut below these nodes. See these little bumps? Those are the nodes, so we'll cut just below those. Make sure you can see. So I have my nodes there. There's also some here, so I could take another cutting, but I think 3 is good. Pop this one down. So next cutting of 2, again, we're just going to go below these nodes. Two, and then I might take another cutting here, so then I'll have 2 and 3. Okay. So I have 4 cuttings now. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm now going to do some more chopping. So I've got better sizes. So I'm going to chop below here and above this point because we only really need the nodes in the water. We don't need all this stem. And I'm going to chop off this section up here because the new growth will come from in here in between where the leaf meets the stem. So this will just be hanging there and doing nothing, so we don't really need that. No growth will come from this section or from down here, so let's trim them off. Same again for this section. I'm just going to cut off the excess. I hope no one gets triggered by saying this, but it does look a bit like a massacre or a crime scene, just with all the purple, pink, red droplets. But I have 4 full cuttings and then I have some stem, 4 chunks of stem I will just dispose of. I could probably propagate this as there's nodes on it, but it's just a stem and I've got 4 beautiful cuttings, so there is no need to save every little piece of your plant you cut off. The same with the foliage that I'm going to trim. I could technically try and propagate some of the foliage depending on where I cut it, but you don't need to. Don't feel like you have to save every little scrap of a plant. You are allowed to propagate, you're allowed to prune, you're allowed to shape, you're allowed to throw out. And I am too, so no one come for me in the comments. I'm not going to put these cuttings straight into water. I'm going to let them callus first for a few hours and then later today I'll pop them in water. I like to let them callus first because you can see that these cuttings are very wet and raw. I like them to dry a little bit first and I find that helps to stop rot. So if you've tried to propagate before and your cuttings have rotted in the water, this may save them. You can see here where the sap from the cutting has dripped down onto the leaf. This is one of the ones I was going to cut off anyway, which is lucky because 1, I don't have to clean it, and 2, it did save my carpet. So just be wary if you are chopping and propping the Pink Princess that you may dye your carpet or your clothes. It did wipe right off my table though. I'm going to cut off this leaf and another yellowing one here. That'll probably be it, but I am a little snip happy, so we'll see how much I end up cutting off. You can also see here the beautiful branching that has happened since I cut it last time. 1, 2, that was the right leaf. And I think that is it for the mother plant. So we chopped one large section to propagate, and then we cut off a few more mangy leaves or ugly leaves. It may seem like a lot, but I still have a lot of new growth. I have a new growth point here, foliage here, and also on this side. So despite cutting off all of that, we still have 3 leaves unfurling as we speak, or as you're watching this. And it should put out some new branches, maybe not until spring, although it is still very hot in Melbourne. It is high 20s Celsius, so still plenty of warm weather for these plants to grow. I'm going to pop her back in her spot, and I'll be back soon when my cuttings have calloused to show you what they look like and pop them in water. It has been a few hours, and you can see the cuttings have all calloused beautifully, so they're ready to pop in water. I am going to put them on the same vessel together. Now this is optional, but I'm just going to dip each of the ends in a little bit of rooting hormone before I put them in the water. I'm just going to toss around to make sure they all sit in properly and that the nodes for each one are submerged. And then add some more water. Apparently pour it on the desk too. Okay, so all my nodes are under the water. And there we have it. I do find philodendrons are quite slow to root, but it'll be warm for a few more months yet, so I'm hoping I'll start to see roots before winter. And of course, I will keep you updated. It's a very cold, rainy and gloomy day. It's also been 1 month since I chopped and propped my Philodendron Pink Princess. Let's have a look at how the mother plant is regrowing and of course how the propagations are rooting. First, let's have a look at the mother plant. I took the cutting from here and you can see there is 2 very clear growth points. Each of these will grow into branches, not just single leaves. These 2 new branches will really help the plant to bush out even more. My only regret is I didn't cut off more of my philodendron. You can see I'm using a branch as support, and the plant is already the same height as my support pole here. I am in Australia and it is currently autumn, so growth will slow down over the coming months, but once it's spring again I will probably take another big cutting of this plant. As well as the new growth at the top, my philodendron has pushed out so many gorgeous new super pink leaves in the last month. These are some of my favorites. These leaves are new as well with the gorgeous pink variegation. As I always say, even if your propagations fail, the mother plant will love you from a chop and prop, so don't be scared to cut your plants. Now let's have a look at the propagations. I took 4 cuttings of my Pink Princess and I have them all in the same vessel. I am happy to say that they have all rooted, and quite a few of them have started growing new foliage as well. So there is new branches and leaves growing on this one. Just a mess of new roots. And if you remember, when I took the cutting, there was one leaf which hadn't unfurled. It has now. And there's new leaves growing. Now let's have a look at the gorgeous fuchsia roots. So you can see this one has lots of roots and also some new growth there. This was at the very top of the cutting, so you can see the new leaf unfurled, and there is another one growing, and lots of lovely roots. The fourth one, again gorgeous fuchsia roots and a new growth point coming there. So all four are rooting beautifully. And it has been exactly 1 month. I took these cuttings in March and it is now April, which is of course autumn in Australia. Over the past month I haven't changed the water, which is why it's a little bit funky. I've just been topping it up as needed with fresh water to make sure all of the roots are submerged. I know some people say to top it up every day or every few days. I'm not one of those people. I don't think that's necessary, and these roots don't think it's necessary either. That is it for the 1 month check-in of my gorgeous Philodendron Pink Princess chop and prop. I'm going to put the mother plant back in her spot and I will see you at the next growth check-in. I have 4 beautiful Philodendron Pink Princess cuttings which have well and truly rooted, so let's pot them up. I took the cuttings in March from this mother plant. It is now June, so it's been 3-4 months since I took them. Come a bit closer. I took the original cutting from here and it was quite a large section of stem, which I then cut down into 4 smaller sections. Since then the mother plant has pushed out so many new growth points and all this beautiful variegated foliage is growing. Even though it is winter in Australia, I took these cuttings at the start of autumn and she's absolutely thriving. As well as growing gorgeous and healthy roots, these cuttings have also pushed out beautiful foliage, so they've been super happy in the water. All of them have new foliage as well as roots, and I do love a hydro plant, which you would already know if you subscribe to my channel, but I think it is time to pot these ones up. As I do have so many cuttings, my plan is to pot up 2 together to make a new plant, and the other 2 I'm going to pot up with the mother plant. You can see that the mother plant is growing towards the back of the pot and there's quite a bit of space at the front of the pot, so I'm going to put 2 of the cuttings in there. I'll also cut off some of the older and raggedy foliage. So let's get into it. I have 3 different pots I'm choosing between. I really love the look of pink and green together, so I have this lovely ceramic one. I have this stunning gold one which makes any plant look beautiful, and then another gold and black one which I think will also look nice. There's no rush to decide though, because the nursery pot that I'm using fits in all 3 planters, so we can put it up and then see which looks best. So let's do that. We have a nursery pot and I'm just going to put a mesh round, as always, in the base of this planter just to stop potting mix falling straight out the bottom. I did just grab this from my little outdoor shelving and there's quite a few cobwebs on it, so if you see me jump throughout, there's probably a spider on it, which has happened to me before. As the Pink Princess, or all Philodendrons are Aroids, I'm going to use an Aroid mix, of course. It's a nice chunky one. I of course have this potting mix linked in the description. These cuttings do look quite large, but all of the roots are really at the base of the stem. So I am going to fill more than half of my pot with the potting mix, and I'm using my pink shovel because it is the Pink Princess. I actually was going to wear a pink dress, but it is off the shoulder and I can't do that right now, and I will show you why shortly. You can see it's quite full, so I'm now going to put my 2 cuttings in and fill around the outside with more potting mix. Now I just need to decide which 2 to put in. I think this one will look good with the mother plant. Maybe these 2 actually. So put those back to the side and I can put these 2 up together. So I have my 2 plants in. Now I will just fill around the outside with the potting mix. I've tried to center them. Make sure all those roots are covered and then some. But you don't want to cover too much of the stem. We don't want to bury the stem down in there, or that's how you may end up with rot. So just the stem where the roots are. I have a growth on this side and this side, which will continue to grow up. It doesn't look that exciting now actually, but she will be beautiful. In my glass bowl, I'm going to put my newly potted up Philodendron Pink Princess at the center, and then I'm really going to drench the soil until it runs out the bottom. I will now put this one off to the side to let it soak. Give it some more whilst we add the other 2 cuttings to the mother plant. Making sure your potting mix is super wet after you have transferred a cutting from water to a potting mix is one of my biggest tips. If you put these water-loving roots into a dry potting mix and don't water them, that's when you can run into issues such as shock. So we don't want to shock our new little plant. So here we have the glorious mother plant. Although these base leaves are not so glorious. They are definitely looking a little bit raggedy. This one you can see is cut in half. It was a perfect split leaf with half pink and half green, and the pink half of course died off faster. So I did snip that off at least 3 years ago now, and the leaf did survive. I wasn't sure if it would die off, but she's still here, albeit a little bit ugly. Some of these lower ones are still gorgeous. There's a lot around the back here. This one's also a little bit raggedy. It's one of the first leaves this plant pushed out, so that one can definitely go. And you can see that there's lots of room at the front to put my cuttings into. This one, of course, is in a nursery pot in the decorative planter as well, but I'm not going to take it out because I fear that will just make this messier. This isn't a complete repot. I'm just going to make some space in the potting mix and hopefully just plant my little cuttings. So let's see if I make a mess on one. Cut it at the base here. So I have a tiny little trowel for tiny cuttings, and I'm just going to stir up the potting mix a bit. I'm actually going to push it towards the back where the existing plant is, and also my stick branch trellis support, so that that is a little bit more stable as well. Can you see? Come closer. good opportunity to make sure there's also not a bunch of roots here that I'm about to disturb. But as the plant is really towards the back here, there's actually plenty of space. I have suddenly just had a worry that the cuttings may not be long enough, but there is only one way to find out. They should be. I mean, look at this. Just so stunning. Okay, so the first one fits beautifully. This is the second. And this one also fits, but maybe time to cut off these bottom leaves as well so that they actually get some sunlight. I mean, they're not exactly spectacular anyway, so let's do that. Just be careful of the red sap, don't put it on the carpet. 1, 2. So now you can see how well this one will fit. Lovely. Okay, so I'm just going to add some soap to the top. Quite a few of the roots are sticking straight up because of the vessel I had them propagating in. Just try and stick those down. It'll take a few weeks for them to calm down. Just like with my new little plant, I'm going to give the soil a really good soak. I intentionally haven't watered this Pink Princess for probably 2 weeks because I knew I would need to give it a really good soak once I potted up some water cuttings. So there you have it. The mother plant is looking so lovely and full. We have added 2 new cuttings and cut off some old mangy foliage. We have also made a new plant. I've opted for the green, obviously, pot. It's a lovely new pink. This doesn't look as impressive now compared to the beautiful and full mother plant, but this is my Philodendron White Princess, which is from 2 planted cuttings, which I potted up last winter. And Marvin's in it, but she's growing out lovely and full now and branching out. So even though this one looks a little bit uninspired, I know she will grow beautiful with these 2 growth points. I think the green does look nice. This plant may not be as pretty as the mother plant, which I've just filled out, but I know it's going to go better than my previous Philodendron Pink Princess chop, prop and plant, which I have just beheaded because I wasn't happy with how it was growing. Cut off this blue leaf too. This one was completely different though. I had propagated the mother plant because the foliage that was growing was completely pink with no green at all, and the leaves were dying off quickly, going brown quickly, and staying quite small. So I chopped it more for the mother plant and then propagated it just for fun. So I'm hoping she'll grow back into a plant I actually want. So stay tuned for that. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye. Okay, that should do it. Of course, Marvin's coming over. Yeah. He's had a haircut. He's had a haircut. Thank you.